and Culture at the Hudson Institute. He has written many articles that have been published around the world. He's appeared on CNN, MSNBC, BBC, and other news channels around the world. And he joins us now to discuss his book, Sovereignty or Submission. John, this is Tim with John. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, if you will, about the Hudson Institute first.
Yes, the Hudson Institute is what they call a think tank. It's in Washington, D.C., and we analyze public policy issues, foreign policy,
right.
Economic policy, defense, health, and so on. And I work on issues of American sovereignty, international law, civic education, and sort of a patriotic assimilation, you might say, of immigrants. But my book, Sovereignty or Submission, Will Americans Rule Themselves or Be Ruled by Others, is about the conflict going on today between people who would like to establish global law and those who believe in the Constitution and national sovereignty. So that's what I'm focused on. My book, I'm proud to say, won the Intercollegiate Studies Institute's book award for the best nonfiction of 2012. So I'm very proud of that. But so that's my main focus. I see I document in the book the challenge of people, call them whatever you want to call them, transnationalists or globalists, global progressives, transnational progressives. John Bolton, the American ambassador to the UN, calls them the high-minded, capital H, capital M. But they're determined to put global law above American law. That's the problem.
What do you use the word sovereignty in the title of your book?
Yes.
Obviously, sovereignty or submission. How would you define that term?
Well, I'm talking about politics here. I'm not talking
right.
about beyond that. I would define, Abraham Lincoln defined it pretty well. He said political sovereignty it means it's a political community with nothing above it. So it's the highest level of political community. It's not subordinate to anybody else. So the United States Constitution for Americans, in a political sense, the Constitution is supreme. And there's an effort underway, including by many Americans, like the American Bar Association is promoting this, or many political groups in the United States are promoting the idea that the global rule of law should be above the Constitution. And we see this in various treaties. Last week there was a vote in the United States Senate on the UN Disability Treaty. This would have given the UN powers, for example, part of the treaty says that children have the right to have any type of contact with people out in opposition to the family, to express their views, you might say, not in opposition to the family. So it puts children in touch with government officials or UN officials to override what the particular interests of the family. And we believe that, I think, and I'm sure you do, the family would be the best judge of a disabled child. So this was the UN Disability Treaty. It was there were 38 senators who voted no last week, and that stopped it temporarily. It'll probably be coming back. But there's many of these treaties, the rights of the child, the UN women's treaties, essentially place UN monitors working with American lawyers, you might say left-wing or globalist lawyers, who are attempting to change the United States and attempting to put global law ahead of the Constitution and ahead of American law.
I can't imagine this being popular with Democrats or Republicans.
That's correct, but it's done sort of through subterfuge, like the Disabled Treaty. It's had about I don't remember the exact, over 60 votes, but they need 2/3 for a Senate vote. So it had support because who wants to say they're against the disabled, or against children, or against women? For example, the UN Treaty on the Rights of the Child, which gives says that children have the right to be in contact with anybody in the world on the internet without permission from their parents. So technically, a 10-year-old or 11-year-old could be in touch with a pornographer or anybody else. Well, this passed overwhelming in the world too. The only countries opposed to it are the United States and Somalia. So the Democrats or the liberals will say, well, you want to stand with Somalia. Are you against the rights of children? The comedian Jon Stewart on television was making fun of the Republicans who opposed this disability treaty. He said, well, they're against the rights of the disabled. You even had veterans groups who said, well, disabled veterans need the right to disabled ramps and assistance and so on when they're traveling abroad. So if the United States passes this law, then it'll send a signal to other countries to do it. None of this is true. So it's then same thing with the women's treaty. They were accused of being against the rights of women. So that's the opposition. That's what they make it very difficult. You can imagine a politician doesn't want to vote against the rights of the disabled or children or women, or he has to go into some detail to explain it, and the other side could come out with a 10-second soundbite. So that's what makes this difficult, even though, as you say, if it was explained to the American people in maybe about 2 minutes, they would be opposed to it.
Yeah, we're talking to John Fonte. Fonte is John's last name. Sovereignty or Submission is the title of his book, Sovereignty or Submission, Will Americans Rule Themselves or Be Ruled by Others? The book is published by Encounter, and I guess is available. Yeah,
the easiest way to get it would be Amazon.
Okay.
Just Google that. I'm Amazon, and it's a discount price on Amazon.
The treaties, we hear about them every year, John, and you just mentioned some of them that come from. Explain how this works exactly. These treaties with these wonderful names originate in the United Nations in New York, and then they're disseminated around the world to be ratified by various countries.
Yeah, well, what they have is a convention. They have a conference. So we have a conference on the disabled, or on discrimination against women, or racial discrimination, or children, or disabled, or so on. So they'll have an international conference. So all the countries send representatives to the conference, or the countries that are in the UN that want to participate. You don't have to participate. You want to participate. The countries send representatives, but also the so-called NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. So,
but do we ever have we? You have to answer this after the break. We hear about these every year, and we always encourage people, like last week we did, to call and tell their senators to vote no on this disabled treaty. Disabilities treaty, and not that we're like you say, you have to explain yourself. We're not, but I mean, we already have Americans for Disabled Disability Act.
Exactly.
Americans can deal. We can deal with our own issues. We don't need any kind of treaty from the UN. But when we get back on, to ask you, has there ever been an example of these kind of things coming in conflict with the U.S. Constitution? We'll continue after this short time out.